And he started Meet the Depressed on December 30th, not this past Sunday, the one before, telling you, the American people, what you can and cannot know. Here's part of what he said. Cut 18, go.
This morning, we're going to do something that we don't often get to do.
What's that?
Dive in on one topic. It's obviously extraordinarily difficult to do this, as the end of this year has proven in the era of Trump.
Yeah, there's Trump. He just gets in the way of everything. I mean, we'd like to really discuss issues, but we can't. It's Trump's fault. But we're going to go ahead.
Take an in-depth look, regardless of that, at a literally earth-changing subject that doesn't get talked about this thoroughly on television news, at least, climate change.
Climate change never gets talked about, ladies and gentlemen. I'll bet you can't remember the last time somebody on TV was talking about climate change. But it's his next comment that I want you to focus in on. Go ahead.
As important as what we are going to do this hour is what we're not going to do. We're not going to debate climate change, the existence of it. The earth is getting hotter, and human activity is a major cause, period. We're not going to give time to climate deniers. The science is settled, even if political opinion is not.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Chuck Todd and his producers and editors and graphics people, his audio people, his lighting people, they've all decided freedom of the press does not include challenging the so-called settled silence of climate change. So settled is climate change that they've changed the phrase 3 times in the last 50 years, from global cooling to global warming to climate change, because everyone knows the climate changes. So now anything and everything can be poured into this phrase, climate change. That's what's political, and we know the history of this. The no-growthers, or the degrowthers as they call themselves, using the environment to attack capitalism. So I said, this Chuck Todd, he must be a genius. He must be a genius because he knows this scientific issue is settled, period. So I just took a quick look. Chuck Todd, what's his background? Well, first of all, when he was in college, he worked on the Tom Harkin campaign for president. Now, Tom Harkin's way out there. He's a nut job. Okay, fine. He was a young man, so he must have academic credentials like we've never seen, because some of these so-called climate deniers, and they use that phrase to shut off debate and to insinuate you're like a Holocaust denier. It's a nasty thing to do, but they do it. Climate denier. Nobody's denying the climate, you idiot. No, you must be a climate denier. No, there's climate. Who's denying climate? What many people are doing is they're skeptical, and they raise serious questions about how these so-called scientists come up with their forecasts. Some of them cheat. Now, we know this. And some of them lie. And we know this. Some of them are earnest. And some of them are driven by ideology. But there are climate deniers, quote unquote, who are extraordinarily well educated, experts in their field, scientists, climatologists, meteorologists, PhDs, MAs. So I said, well, Chuck Todd, this guy must be unbelievable. So I looked. He didn't finish college. Now, I'm not saying everybody needs to go to college. Please understand. 2/3 of the people in this country don't go to college or don't graduate. It's perfectly fine by me. Do whatever you want. And more college is an indoctrination mill, so I get it. But this guy has absolutely no academic credentials and no experiential credentials whatsoever to be sitting there like Kim Jong-un announcing to the vast population of the American people that there's climate change, meaning climate warming is what they're trying to say, global warming, and human activity is a major cause, period, says Chuck Todd. So let me ask you, who's the despot? Todd or Trump? Who's attacking freedom of the press? Todd or Trump? So now we've reached a point of propaganda. So Chuck Todd has announced to the whole world that he's a propagandist for an ideology, the progressive ideology, and the anti-capitalist, environmental, radical leftists. So that's what you get from the chief political director at NBC News and the host of Meet the Depressed. Some slob who's not particularly well-educated, who's basically repeating propaganda, telling us, hey, the science is over. And then he spent the rest of the show with one-sided presentation, propaganda. Now, I have to give the guy some credit. Usually, they're very sly about this. Jake Tapper is very sly about it. Wolf Blitzer, when he wakes up, he's very sly about it. But more and more, some of these younger individuals who claim to be journalists, Don Lemon, there's a joke. Who else? Well, you can name them. More and more of them are openly, they're full-mouthed leftists, ideologues on these key and important issues. So there's Chuck Todd and Meet the Depressed. Pretty incredible, don't you think? Unbelievable, actually.